Okay.
Great.
Yay.
Boy, hi, Oscar. How are you? Yeah, you can dig in. Oh, very good, Angie.
Hi, Valerie. How are you?
Hi, Oscar. Great to see you. I see so many people in New York in our country offices. So I think we should go ahead and get started. So just wanted to welcome Oscar. He's fairly new to this particular role with UNDP, but he's not new to UNDP. He's been with us in the past, and we're very happy that he's joined us as the head of the Independent Evaluation Office. I think that's a function he's had also in other agencies, EFED most recently. He was also senior evaluation advisor in UNDP in his past. So again, welcome back to UNDP, Oscar, and thank you so much. I'm sorry, I know it's late in the evening, New York time, so we really appreciate that everybody's there. Maybe I'll just say a few words of introduction, and then I'll ask Oscar to do the same. You know, we need to use our evaluation process more strategically and as a management instrument. Our decentralized evaluations are really the main instrument that we have to objectively assess our work, our results, and inform our learning process. If we're not doing evaluations well, we're depriving ourselves of a key source of knowledge on what and how we can do better. With the increasing expectations from governments and partners alike for UNDP and for us to continue to grow, and in the face of increasingly complex development challenges, we really have to use this source of learning and evaluation. The aim of this webinar is to get everyone participating well acquainted on evaluations so that we can together improve on our performance, and especially on decentralized evaluations. There's two issues, I think, in terms of where we need to improve. One is with the quality, of course. We've been at the same kind of, let me say it politely, mediocre level. And quality for several years, and so business as usual is not working for us on the evaluation side, and so that's one of the reasons we're having this this webinar, and that we've actually invested quite a bit of resources now to really have more hands on deck that are helping us with results-based management, with setting targets, with doing our evaluation cycle more properly. The aim is for the next gen UNDP and for senior managers and country offices and colleagues that work on evaluations to know where we're at and how we can systematically improve. The webinar is designed also to address country offices and regional program questions. So I know we have people from both country offices and regional programs. And just to say that we're here both from RBAP, from BRH, from RBAP New York, from the Independent Evaluation Office to really support all of our countries and our regional program in doing that. So Oscar, before I turn over to you, the only thing I need to tell you in terms of process-wise is that those of us who are in Bangkok will need to leave at 10 o'clock sharp because we have an all-staff meeting. So sorry, we'll ask Marta or somebody else from RBAP to continue emceeing, if I can say so, if the meeting goes beyond the hour. So Oscar, we're in your great hands again. Thank you so much. Thank you to your colleagues. We have many people on the line. I see Hanayo from BPPS, Richard. So really thank you so much, and over to you, Oscar.
Thank you very much, Valerie, and good morning, colleagues. It's a real pleasure to be with you today, and I think we're going to make it in an hour's time. I want to start by thanking all of you for contributing to the various independent evaluations that we have undertaken in the region. starting by your contribution to independent country program evaluations, ICPEs, and also for the conduct of some thematic evaluations. As you know, this year we have a full agenda with ongoing evaluations of UNDP role in middle-income countries, our role in adaptation to climate change, conflict-affected countries, and small grant programs, and so on, all of them leading to the evaluation of the strategic plan, and which will be presented to the Executive Board in June 2021. And that is for us an important process. And I want to again thank all of you at the country level for supporting these efforts. We know that conducting evaluation requires a lot of attention from your side, from our side, time, energy, and resources, and therefore we want these evaluations to be truly useful. And for increasing the utility of evaluation so that evaluation can really orient the future, we are planning this series of meetings with the regional bureaus in which we more openly address the challenges in order to face them together. And as Valerie was saying, we have some concern with the quality of decentralized evaluations, and more than with the quality, also with the coverage. Because as you are well aware, decentralized evaluations really accompany the implementation of your country document, of your country strategy. And I think if those are not sufficiently covered, it's like walking in the dark. Therefore, I'm really pleased to hear to Valerie saying that evaluation should be used as a process for more strategic focus of the programs and for facilitating learning. Once we improve the quality of decentralized evaluations, the complementarity of independent evaluation can work much better in terms of providing the adequate feedback to our counterparts at government level, but also to our governing bodies at the Executive Board. And the second part of the interaction today will be around evaluation under COVID-19. We know that we are all facing the challenges of supporting member states to prepare for the crisis, respond to the crisis, and recover from it. And it will be very important that we accompany that with a good strengthening the availability of what we are doing in response to the COVID-19, because future evaluations are coming in this area, and we would like to share with you also some guidelines that my office has prepared for that regard. So without much further ado, I would like to invite my colleague Richard Jones, who has been spearheading these initiatives in contact with the regional bureaus, and who will be able to share with you a few slides and a brief presentation, after which we would be very happy to entertain your questions and engage in the fruitful dialogue. Thank you. Thank you all.
Great. Excellent. I should just, as host of this meeting, I want to inform people that the meeting is being recorded. So that's just, you know, to make sure people know that. I think it's excellent that it is being recorded, because then people can come back to it. So I'm very happy it's being recorded. I just wanted to put that on record so that people know. So Richard.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Oscar. Let me just do the process of sharing my screen so you can see the presentation.
Great.
You can see everything and you can hear me. Is that right?
We hear you fine. JJ, can you make sure that Richard can share his screen?
Yes, it should.
Can you see?
No, we're not seeing the screen,
Okay.
Richard.
Let me try again.
I just click on share screen and then, yep.
Yep.
I think it's in the front, yep.
Beautiful. Now we're seeing your screen, and if you could put it in a slideshow format, that would, there you go.
Okay, now we're cooking. Okay. Thank you very much, Valerie. It's really nice to see so many friendly faces, so many friends from Asia Pacific that I have seen over the years. So Oscar's given a pretty good introduction. So the first two slides here are just to go over some of the work that we've done with you over the last couple of years and how it is interlinked with some of our other more broader thematic work. Last year was a busy year for the office for IEO. We had 38 independent country program evaluations, 6 of which were in Asia Pacific, and they were some of our larger evaluations also, Afghanistan being probably the largest, as you know. This year we have an independent country program review in Mongolia and an independent program evaluation for Vietnam. Unfortunately, given COVID and challenges with doing evaluations and planning, we had to reschedule, or we did a criticality assessment and we had to reschedule our own program of work, which meant our evaluation of the Lao PDR was cancelled. But I would say not so much cancelled because in fact, I was meant to be the lead evaluator, and in fact, I'm supporting that evaluation from afar, and the country office is implementing it. So they are still receiving some technical support. But last year was a considerable, body of work, 38 evaluations, $6 billion worth of UNDP expenditure was evaluated. And these evaluations all serve to inform CPDs of country officers and also inform the executive board of past performance of country officers. They also, as Oscar pointed out, they were key inputs into several of our ongoing thematic evaluations. Oscar mentioned all of them here. Malaysia was a case study for the middle income countries evaluation, which is due to the board in September, but also China, Maldives, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, all being middle income countries, also served as desk reviews for that report. The work that UNDP does in response to the Syria crisis and migration crises was informed by the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar and UNDP's work and support there. And of course, all of this will feed into our strategic plan evaluation, which is underway and will be presented to the board in June next year. Let me shut the window. There's a bit too much New York bird chatter out there, sorry. And so all of this is well informing our thematic and corporate work going forward. Now, this is a very much an interactive sort of presentation. We hope to have lots of questions. But at this point, I think, Marta, you are going to do a very quick poll for the group to just let's see if you know what you are planning to do, or what you plan to do and what you actually did over the last few years. And IEO colleagues, please also join in if you can. So please run the poll if you.
Okay, so we're gonna have a few polls throughout the presentation of Richard, also to keep you focused and attentive. So first question, please, JJ, if you could pull it up. Okay, so the first question is about how many evaluations on average do you think that each country office in the region conducted, planned to do last year, planned. So on average, within a country office, how many planned evaluations were planned last year? Okay, have you all voted, more or less? Yes?
Not yet. Still 11 to go.
I think we can move to we have a quorum. We can move to the next question.
Oh, and the polling.
Oh, but what's the answer?
You don't expect to get answers as well, do you, Valerie? Okay, well, in fact, last year, looking at on average, it was for RBAP was actually six per country office. Okay. Okay. But that's an average. I mean, Fiji had quite a lot. They had over 28, I think. But we'll see those numbers. And other countries had far fewer, but we'll get to that. Globally, however, the number is 3.7. So you are planning, you have planned way above what the rest of the globe has. Most other countries, the global average is about 3 to 4 evaluations per country office. But that's planning. Planning's one thing. Now implementation is a completely different thing. So yes, 6 per country office were planned, but how many were implemented? That's the next question.
So that's the next question. So how many evaluations do you think on average per country office were completed by the end of the year?
That's okay. Up to 3, I bet. Yeah.
So Bushra, do you know the answer as the regional M&E focal point? Can I put you on the hotspot? You know how many were completed per country office in your?
Why, thank you very much for doing that, Richard.
No, you're welcome, Bushra.
Very, very kind of you. I would say still between 4 to 6 on average.
Completed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll end the polling.
We can end the polling there. It was actually less than 4. So in fact, in RBAP, if I move to my next slide, you'll see, and if we can close the poll. So globally, we plan far beyond what we actually implement. In February 2019, there were 530 evaluations globally planned.
Sorry, can somebody close the polling window? Whoever's controlling the polling, is that you, Marta?
I'm not sure. JJ?
No, that would be me. That it should close.
Can you still see it? Or
You can still see.
Closed.
I closed it.
Closed.
Perhaps you just need to. Okay, so there should be closed.
We can see the slide.
Okay,
good.
All right.
So globally, at the start of the year, we had planned 530 evaluations. By the end of, by January of this year, only 55% had been completed. It was a little bit of a better picture across the RBAP region. 144 were planned and 89 were completed, or just over 62%. In fact, you had the highest numbers of any region. But it's still well below the planned number. Of those evaluations globally, 43% of evaluations are GEF, midterm reviews or terminal evaluations. Though GEF only accounts for around 10% of funding and about 13% of projects, 14% of projects, they account for over 40% of all the evaluations we do. I'm not sure about the programs and funding picture in RBAP, but more than half of your evaluations last year were GEF, terminal or midterm review evaluations. Well, why does this matter? Why do we worry about this? This evaluation plans accompany our CPDs when they go to the board, and they illustrate our country officers' commitment to accountability and transparency and learning, and are a management tool to affect change within the office. So if we are only meeting 55 to 60% of what we said we were going to do, it means we are only accountable or and transparent to 55%, 60% of our commitment to the board. Equally, changes to plans and not meeting evaluation plan commitments often leads to a misbalance in our evaluation portfolio, as we see here. Often because GEF, midterm reviews and terminal evaluations are mandatory. They are a requirement by the funding agency, by GEF, and therefore they have to be done. So something else is being cancelled. And quite often it is outcome, thematic, and project evaluations funded by UNDP. Moving on to the next slide, you'll see, oops, sorry. you'll see the picture across individual countries. So as we said, Fiji, I was close, 27 evaluations. They did just over half. Some countries didn't do anything. Surprisingly, RBAP did no evaluations last year. Just leave that there. And planned for 2020, there's a similar number of evaluations planned for this year. Obviously, with COVID, this is going to be a challenge, and we'll get to that in a second. So far in implementation, in RBAP, you have implemented 41 evaluations, which is actually 27% way above the global average now of 16%. But it does still mean at midpoint in the year, you have 73% of your evaluations still to do. Over 100 and I think it's 113 evaluations still to be carried out. Now, you might say, the argument being, well, COVID has stopped us from evaluating our projects, and quite rightly, they have caused delays. However, if we look at this picture at any given year, it's exactly the same. I checked the figures against last year, and by this point, across the world, around 15% of evaluations are completed, which means basically we are back-ending all of our evaluations towards the second part of the year, which of course comes at the worst part for country officers because they're reporting, they have their RAWs, and as a result, we're seeing evaluations cancelled and transferred to the following year.
Okay, now is where we
now
go.
we have a further poll. Marta, would you like to, before we move on to the quality assessment process?
Okay, so the next question is on quality. So in 2019, what do you think was the percentage of decentralized evaluations conducted globally, so for the whole of UNDP, that met the UNDP quality guidelines? So the guidelines that UNDP has set already and set forth, how many do you think, what's the percentage that you think that the evaluations met in the criteria? Okay, 75% voted. Okay.
Okay, I think we can close there. So 25 to 50%. That's generous. So globally, actually, only around 21% of all evaluations met the guideline, met the standards set by UNDP. Met the minimum standards set by UNDP.
And if we go to question 4, it's the same question, but then focusing on RBAP. And JJ, can you put the next question? So then the same question, what do you think, what's the percentage of evaluations in the region that met our own quality guidelines? Okay.
Okay. So same voting. You think I guess you have achieved a higher quality than UNDP in general.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else wants to vote? Okay, we're closing can we close it, JJ?
Thank you. So in fact, if we take a look, unfortunately, the picture is not looking so bright. So on the left, we have the global quality figures. And let me just explain what I mean by quality. Some of you RBM colleagues and M&E colleagues may know, but IEO takes all UNDP evaluations every year, and we put them through a quality assessment process. The only evaluations that we don't assess are the midterm reviews of GEF and more recently UNDP evaluations, because they are now run by the RC's office. We assess them, we use a pool of independent reviewers who assess each evaluation by the quality of the terms of reference, then they look at the evaluation report, and they look at the quality of the methodology, the data sources. They also look at the inclusion of cross-cutting issues such as gender. And then the biggest section is the quality of the findings and conclusions and recommendations. IEO sets the quality assessment criteria, but that is based on the guidelines, UNDP's guidelines for implementation of evaluations. And unfortunately, consistently, the organization, only around 22% globally meet those criteria. In Asia Pacific, you can see it's 21%. With obviously, you can see a big bunching around the moderately satisfactory. And this means that they have challenges in a number of areas that are holding them back from meeting the criteria that the organization has set. Now, what does that mean? It brings into question usability of those evaluations, and to a degree, the credibility of the evaluations. And in financial terms, I mean, given that we spend around $8 million a year on evaluations, if 20% are unsatisfactory, it means we are wasting $2 million and we're not getting anything from our money. Now, across RBAP, I took all of the QA scores for the last 4 years, sorry, and I did a very rough and dirty average for all of those evaluations and the quality scores. And you can very much see the blue is there, that the blue being 5 and satisfactory, but the bunching is all around the moderately satisfactory, which means that the quality is it's just not meeting the standards that we want, that we would expect. And obviously you see a few areas of red as well where we need to seriously increase and improve the quality. Now, what can we do? There are certain areas that consistently stand out as being poor. One is cross-cutting issues, and that's including gender. Evaluating projects through a gender lens, ensuring that projects have taken gender into account, also human rights, and other aspects of cross-cutting issues. That's always an area that is much lower within evaluation reports, and that's something that can be improved. Jeff, and we have Margarita from Jeff here, and she is open to answer some questions, I'm sure, towards the end. But Jeff is showing very much a strong bunching around the moderately satisfactory. And we're worried that Jeff is operating in a parallel system, or I worry that Jeff is operating in a parallel system and is not taking advantage of improvements and support that we've put in place to try and strengthen the evaluation structure. Now, Jeff have put out for UNDP new terminal evaluation guidance, which should help to strengthen that process. And we're working with Jeff to see what we can do to improve that. Obviously, a consistent complaint we get, and this is something that our office also struggles with occasionally, is access to good evaluators. And they are ultimately responsible for the final product. There is movement on that. There is now we are close to having a vetted roster, not operated by IEO, but operated by BPPS using CREW. So there should now be availability for more higher quality evaluators. We've recently done some analysis, and there's a clear, we've always thought this, but there's definitely a clear linkage between the budget that's assigned for evaluations and the end quality. I mean, this sounds, you know, like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised. We see a lot of evaluations with a 5,000, 10,000 budget mark. What we are finding is our analysis has found if you want a satisfactory evaluation, it would, in general, it costs above $30,000. In fact, the average is $37,000. Moderately satisfactory evaluations, they often are only spending or allocating less than 30,000. Now, the average budget globally for evaluation is actually 25,000. And in RBAP, it's 27,500. So we're below that sort of where the more you pay, seriously, the better the quality gets. Now we haven't, sorry.
Richard, before you move to, now we're going to COVID, right? So there's a couple of questions, I think. Really
no, we're not on COVID yet, I don't think.
Oh, no,
we
sorry,
have,
you're going.
one more slide. So we've put a number of, over the last few years, we've worked closely with the different bureaus and with BPPS to put into place, stronger guidance. So there's now very clear evaluation guidelines that are broken up across different sections that give clear templates of what is expected from a terms of reference, an inception report, and a final evaluation report. Equally, we've tried to clarify and make much clearer the roles and responsibilities for everybody, including the evaluation managers, and we've put out there the quality assessment process, which can be used both by country officers and can be used by evaluators themselves to ensure that they are giving a product that is meeting our standards. Now, we also have put into place training, and we had training with our BAP colleagues in Egypt in October last year, and there is now certified online training, and all M&E officers in the region should do the mandatory certified training. That was launched last month. So far in RBAP, I'm happy to see 24 have completed, 10 have completed the certified course, and 14 colleagues have completed the introduction. So now, yes, now we are moving to the COVID section.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions actually really zooming into the quality and Jeff. So I don't know if you want to take them now or you just wait for the end.
I'm happy to wait for the end unless anybody has burning questions they want to. I'm happy. I mean,
okay.
Maybe we just we keep going. So obviously, COVID has delayed a lot and has. Evaluation is not on its own. It's facing a number of challenges. So from March, April, IEO has put out a number of pieces to try and help bureaus and country officers in implementing their evaluations. And this was one of the first pieces, the principles for undertaking. I mean, the 4 key principles here, and the first one being safety first, do no harm. We should not just move ahead with evaluations. The safety of UNDP staff, partners, stakeholders, and beneficiaries is paramount. The second thing, and we'll look at that in more detail, is we should be reconsidering our evaluation. So effectively between April and June, there was a pause. There was a rescheduling. We did a process of, we looked at our evaluations with a critical eye. We looked at criticality of those evaluations, and we rescheduled many, and we advised country officers to do the same. We also advised them to review the evaluation teams and the methodologies. It may be that we need to use more national consultants. We are doing that. We're using more national consultants and using international consultants in a support role. Desk reviews are now critical. We need to do more detailed desk reviews, which means we need to collect more data. So it's essential that country officers have data in place for evaluators. Unfortunately, as we all know, and as we are doing now, face-to-face meetings are increasingly difficult. So we're doing more interviews and surveys online with both UNDP staff when we're doing evaluations and also with obviously country partners. This is difficult then to meet actual beneficiaries and focal groups, but we're also looking at ways of doing that. Equally, we are having to adjust our terms of reference to take into account changes in situation because of COVID. Sorry, I'm just moving through my notes. Yeah, we're seeing project implementation delays, but also what you need to do and what we need to do is start to record UNDP's response to the crisis, capture evidence, indicators, and I believe Hanayo is online and she may talk to the guidance on indicators and the RAW, mini RAW that is being issued soon by BPPS. And we should start to plan forward for eventual evaluations of COVID-19. So at this point in July, now we're several months into COVID, we really need to now, as a step one, start to look at our plans critically. Over the last 3 months, there has been no adjustment to evaluation plans. There's been minor changes here or there, but there's still basically 530 evaluations being planned for the remainder of the year. So it's essential that country officers now, they review the evaluation plans and they undertake a criticality assessment. We need to be realistic. What can we do? Can we put project evaluations together and evaluate them under an outcome heading or a thematic heading? Are some evaluations, should we consider not doing them at all? Or some can be delayed till next year. That's easy enough for UNDP funded project evaluations, but for GEF, unfortunately, GEF evaluations cannot be combined. They still need their individual MTRs or midterm evaluations and terminal evaluations. And delays need to be ran past technical advisors. As I mentioned, our office has undertaken a criticality assessment, you know, of the evaluations, what really needs to be done. Then when you have chosen what evaluations you feel need to be done, you can look at the methodologies and modalities that you can run these through. Can they be done with national consultants on their own? Can they be done with national consultants with support from international evaluators? Is it going to be possible to do them online, interviews online? Now, once you've chosen what evaluations need to be done, we need to do an evaluability checklist, because now the process is going to be very difficult. And it's essential that we have all documentation in place. So we need to have a clearly articulated theories of change. We need to have a well-defined results framework, and we need to have sufficient data and documentation for the evaluations. So there's an evaluability checklist in the guidelines, and I really would recommend that you go through that and check. And if all the pieces are not in place, then you should seriously consider whether to move ahead with an evaluation until those pieces are in place. Finally, as I mentioned, we will be as an organization, we're obviously going to be evaluating our response to COVID. It will be evaluating it at the thematic level, but you should also prepare to evaluate your work at the country office and regional level, because CPDs are going to change quite considerably because of this, and directions may change quite considerably. So it's essential that we document those changes and we document that decision making, that we articulate a change in theory of change when reprogramming, and that we start to collect, we clearly articulate the results that we're aiming for, and we start to collect the data that will support our assessment and our oversight of those projects and reprogramming. And as I said, BPPS are producing some indicators and some guidance on that, and Hanayo may be able to talk to that later. So I'm coming to an end now. As I mentioned, we've put there's guidance out there for country officers. We have a general guidance on planning and implementation. There's guidance on how to adjust your terms of reference to take into account COVID. There's also some guidance on implementing evaluations remotely. And we have some plans to do evaluative frameworks and principles and questions in the next few months that will support future evaluations. There's also webinars available for you to check on, and we're open to take questions at any time. And there's also a page with useful resources and guidance on real-time evaluations and evaluations in crisis. Equally, IEO has just released, or the last 2 months released, 4 papers drawing together lessons from previous crises and previous evaluations, both by IEO and decentralized agencies, on lessons from on support to health systems, lessons on support to livelihoods, social protection, and strengthening governance. And we have plans to do 3 others and more in the future. And that is the end of my presentation. As I said, Margarita is here, Oscar, Hanayo, and myself, and of course, Marta and Bushra, to answer any questions you have moving forward. Thank you.
So before we move to questions, just we have a one last poll. JJ, if you can put question 5. It's a very hard one. So after all what you have heard and all what you have learned, do you think you need to revise your office evaluation plans? Okay, so good answer. We will help. No, we're going no. Okay, well, anyway. I'm gonna wait until we go to at least 75%. Okay, so yeah, any more? Good. So at least 58% of you said you will be revising your evaluation plans. So we'll use this data by the end of the year and see how well we did, and on trying to see how are we getting better results, not only in terms of what we planned versus what we completed, but as Richard has been really explaining in terms of quality, but also the huge impact of COVID. We'll now open up for discussions. Bhushan and I will be facilitating. There is, as Richard said, I really urge you that we have the opportunity to also have Hanayo and Margarita here. So perhaps we can open the floor first to country offices, and then we can have at least 15, 20 minutes of discussion. And even though
it's always confusing to me, Marta, whether participants can see the Q&A or if participants can see the chat. I think they can't sometimes. So can we go ahead and start with, can somebody help us look through the chat and read the question out loud and then direct it to the right person to answer? So Bushra and Marta, I guess we're in your hands, please, to read the chats. And I think you have to read it out loud to the attendees if they haven't seen it. And then assign whoever's supposed to answer. Thank you.
Yes, Valerie, we've received a few questions, mostly from our colleagues here in BRH. So we would welcome any questions that are coming from country offices as well. They can use both the chat. I think they are able to see the chat, and also the QA format. One question was from Hamidi, who mentioned that because JEF evaluations are a significant part of our evaluations, and if those are excluded from the QA, what will give the right picture of the region? And I already responded to that by saying that JEF evaluations are QA'd, and the results that IEO gives is pretty much in line with the JEF QA itself. Richard, would you have something to add to that? Because they are all QA'd and in line with JEF's QA process.
That's right. The QA, so we do 2 things with JEF evaluations. We do a quality assessment which runs through our sort of UNDP QA, but we also do a verification of the scoring of JEF evaluations. So we give extra time, and reviewers review all the project documents, PIMS reports and things like that, and they do a validation of whether they agree with the scoring that the evaluator has given. And JEF takes those. So it's only midterm reviews that we do not quality assess. And Margarita, would you like to add anything there?
Hi, Richard. Thanks. Yes, I just wanted to add that Jeff terminal evaluations have also been at an MS average
Cannot hear you.
in terms of their quality. Can you hear me?
Maybe a bit louder. Can you
Hi, can you hear me now?
That's better, yes.
Okay. So Jeff terminal evaluations have been at a moderately satisfactory average in terms of their quality.
Margarita, we can't hear you well. Please raise your voice. Thank you.
Hi, is this better?
Yes.
Much better. Thank you.
So Jeff evaluations have been at a moderately satisfactory quality rating average in terms of their quality for the past several years. So that is, I think, pretty much in line with the rest of UNDP evaluations. And also, as Richard mentioned, we do have an updated guidance for terminal evaluations of Jeff Finance projects. This updated TE guidance was posted to the ERC just yesterday. So I am on the verge of posting an announcement about it on Teams and Yammer. And also I will inform Bushra and the other M&E regional advisors, because I will hold a webinar for country offices later this month. So please look out for that. And with this new guidance, which is more detailed, it outlines roles and responsibilities. It's aligned with the UNDP evaluation guidelines. It is also aligned with the updated Jeff evaluation policy. Hopefully the quality of TEs will improve with this new detailed guidance. And also, since we're talking about quality, our unit added a little over 40 evaluators to the GPN consolidated roster platform. So these evaluators have experience evaluating environmental projects, so climate change adaptation, climate change mitigation, biodiversity, chemicals and waste management, water and ocean governance, et cetera. And that roster is available for country offices, regional hubs, headquarters. And I think it is a good resource for all offices to use to help carry out the evaluation process more efficiently, and to make sure that you are hiring a vetted and highly experienced evaluator. And I think that's it. Over.
Thank you, Margaret.
I just want to add that while rosters have been updated even in the hub, in all the different rosters that exist for tried and tested, we have to revisit the point that Richard made, that you have to assess and understand the evaluability criteria of your projects. Be sure that you have enough data coming in so the evaluators, when they come in, have something on the basis to which to assess. And lastly, that the RBM focal points should be using IEO's QA criteria, so that the quality of the TORs and the draft evaluations are assessed before they're finalized. So before you finalize your reports, the RBM focal points should be assessing the quality of the product that's coming out from the country office. This is the only way that we can ensure that our evaluations are of a high quality. There are some questions from the hub, but I'm going to go to a question from Myanmar office. It said, as some of the country offices are in the process of conducting midterm evaluations of the CPDs in 2020, it includes Myanmar, India, Nepal, and others. Is it possible to give some guidance on the process and standards that IEO uses in ICPE evaluations, so that there is a comparability of the MTE or the MTR of the CPD with the ICPE at the end, and the standards are maintained?
Certainly. We have all of our terms of reference, firstly, are available online. And if you come to us, we can share more detailed terms of reference. Equally, we have our own sort of methodological guidance, is we can share that with you. And then final reports are all there. So you can see on what basis we look at the CPDs and how we evaluate those. So that all of this information is available, and we're happy to, if you come to, it's there on the ERC and our website, but we're also happy to share that with you. Oscar, would you like to?
Sure. There are a few questions, but in particularly to this one, it would be great to align better the midterm reviews to the ICPEs, because there should be a consistency. And I really would like to explore ways to strengthen the guidance for doing so, because what you were saying is quite critical, and there was also a question about the use of the evaluation findings and recommendations for the design of new programs. Mm. And we would like to propose more engagement from IEO with the regional bureaus through an observer participation in PACs, so that we make sure that the lessons and the recommendations from the previous evaluation are taken into consideration for the design of new country program documents or new projects, and then really to see how the evaluation plans are accompanying the new CPD. Therefore, I think these are very, very good points.
I would also I think Myanmar may have an ICPE in 2021. When does the CPD end? But it might also be worth considering outcome evaluations or midterm outcome evaluations, especially for bigger portfolios, because they often produce more interesting results, which can then, especially for our ICPEs, are essential when we do the ICPEs. The midterm reviews can often be a little bit too general of a CPD, and it might be better to target in those key areas or those key outcomes where you want to see change, where you want to see, well, where you're not seeing the change that you want to see.
Richard, with that regard, with the countries that are going through MTS, they were advised on developing thematic chapters or outcome papers in the MTS as per advice.
Yeah.
Can
I just also add to that, Bushra, you know, given the changes that are happening with COVID, it's essential that these midterm reviews do reflect these changes, and especially any reprogramming that is being done or delays to projects, because all of this is going to have a huge impact on the achievement of the CPD. And when I say we should review our plans, and we do say, you know, this year, I think for many country officers, you do well to review your evaluation plan for the next 18 months. Because again, this is not something that is going to end in the next few months. This is going to reverberate across 2021, both in programs and in our ability to do evaluations. So our planning should be much broader than just where we are now. Thank you, sorry.
We have another question. For terminal evaluation recommendations, mostly we can't do much with them because the recommendation is either backward looking, tweak TSC, poor results framework. Some of the recommendations are useful if we have plans to scale up. This is especially true for JEF terminal evaluations. Is there a possibility for the evaluation guidance to address this for evaluations?
You will always have this issue of the timeliness of the recommendations, particularly for closed projects. However, you will see that a number of the recommendations are repetitive, namely that these issues are coming over and over again in the design of new programs. Therefore, even though you think that this is related to a past and finished intervention, the value of that knowledge for designing the new ones should not be underestimated. Richard?
No, I agree. Sorry, Valerie, yes.
Oh, sorry. So I was just going to say, so the reflections, the series of reflections that you've started to put out, those are critical, I would say. So exactly as you say, that if it's similar to our audit experience in some ways, it's often the same issues over and over. You know, the top, Darshak used to publish, you know, the top 10 audit findings, and it was actually helpful. And, you know, to make it very clear. So somehow those tips in terms of what are the repeated evaluation findings, the reflections is very useful. So thank you for that. Oscar, as I said, we have to, people in Bangkok have to say goodbye now. I'm chairing an all staff meeting, but I would ask for Marta to please continue with the hosting and the continuation of the Q&A. But keeping in mind, it's about 11 p.m. New York time. So our colleagues in New York do have to get to sleep before too long. So let me just thank the colleagues who have joined, Oscar, Richard, Marta, Bushra. Thank you for organizing this. It's maybe the first in a series of discussions, but I feel like this was a very useful way to kick it off. So Oscar, my thanks to you. And I'm gonna quietly depart so that we can start the other meeting without too much disruption. You go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valerie. It was really a great pleasure to see you and interacting with your team. And thanks for the recognition of the reflections. We really made an effort to extract lessons that are replicable in other situations, and particularly for the COVID-19.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Valerie.
I just wanted to add here, Richard, before we go on to the next question, that in the hub, we have done similar exercise to your reflections for country offices. So terminal evaluations and midterm reviews or Jeff evaluations, they've all done, we've done a macro analysis of what kind of recommendations are coming in order to guide the senior management. And this has been done for select countries, and we are happy to share that with you. But of course, to make sure that those are effectively used and that these evaluations are actually coming from quality evaluations is, I think, the purpose that you would like to reiterate in the session today.
That would be great, Bushra, if you, and we talked about this last year, that seems so long ago now when we were in Egypt. As we go forward, as part of, we've just done a review of our support to decentralized evaluation, and we do have a plan to start to revise the guidelines. I don't think we're going to change them hugely, but I think what we will do is we will be adding sections and we'll be adding greater clarity in certain parts. You know, what is a thematic evaluation? What is a midterm review? What is a terminal evaluation? And it's there that we can add a little bit more clarity maybe on how those recommendations can be used, both looking backwards and going forwards. But certainly, and I would like to see your piece so we can incorporate that also.
Also to reiterate for country officers, it's quite important for them to, all project and program staff to undergo IEO's evaluation trainings. So I have been through one, and I think it will really help the RBM focal points as well to be able to explain their points and to ensure that the quality criteria of IEOs is implemented for all project thematic or outcome evaluations by the RBM focal points as well.
And this issue that you are raising, Bushra, is important to us because on one hand, we need to have the guidance. And I think IEO has really worked very hard to update the guidance and to do the training, right? But additionally to that, we need to have the capacity to do so. And the capacity refers to the consultants that are available to hire, to undertake the evaluations, as well as the resources. And I mean financial resources. And therefore, we are in conversations with the House to try to go back to the practice of identifying the budget line for evaluation so that we can really allocate from the project budget a line for evaluations that would provide sufficient financial resources for its undertaking in different moments of completion. But we need the support of the regional bureaus also to push into that direction.
Yeah, I think, Oscar, you've probably seen this, and I've heard Richard talk about this in one of his webinars. Richard and Heather have both. That when you talk about evaluations, one of the biggest problems is there's no monitoring data available, and the investments in monitoring is quite important. So even if now you were to come in and do an evaluation of our response to COVID-19, how much monitoring or verified data do we actually have for you to be able to use? Yes. So are we only looking at investments or is evaluation a good time for us to invest in collecting that kind of data? becomes quite important as well, to have that conversation in terms of guidance.
Certainly, those are closely related, and good monitoring would lead to good evaluation. However, it's important to distinguish the responsibilities, and we are more concentrated on the evaluation. We would like to ensure the availability of resources for decentralized evaluations as well, which may have positive spillovers over monitoring.
I'm going to pass on to Marta now because there's a staff meeting that I need to attend. But it was a pleasure to meet you all. And of course, RBM Focal Point, stay in touch. We'll talk on our WhatsApp group. So over to you, Marta.
Thank you, Bushra. And Bushra has been doing an amazing job in getting all the RBM colleagues together to really exchange lots of ideas and experiences and tools. So that's been a really excellent network that really is strengthening the region. I'm going to pass to a question from Sri Lanka, from Tajia, that is directed to you, Richard. And it's about really zooming in into the quality of evaluation. So from your perspective and experience.
Can we ask them to ask the
yes.
question? Yeah, it'd be nice to sort of include.
So over to you, Tasha. I think you can unmute yourself.
Yes, they can also put video.
Are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for the presentation. So my question is in relation to what you mentioned about the significant quality concerns with evaluations that are being conducted by country officers, and the fact that they are not meeting a satisfactory standard. So I was just wondering whether you can just summarize for us, from IEO's perspective, what some of the major quality concerns are.
So as we mentioned, one of the key areas that we see a challenge is in the cross-cutting issues. That's definitely an issue. Obviously, we have started to see if your terms of reference is not clear, concise, and clearly directs the evaluator towards what the areas and has a good initial methodology, access to documentation, and a starting point for evaluative questions. If that terms of reference is not good quality, then it starts to fall apart almost from the beginning. The link, we need a good terms of reference, and then we will have a good evaluation. However, we're also seeing one of the bigger, an emerging area of challenge is actually in the findings and the linkages between findings and the recommendation, conclusions and recommendations. So how the quality of the recommendations and ultimately the usability of those recommendations. Often we find them to be too generic. They simply skim the surface. You must have improved monitoring, but recommendations need to help to guide the country office and the project team and the program team in how to implement a program better. And so cross-cutting issues, terms of reference, and then we are seeing an emerging challenge with findings recommendations. Those are the areas that we see. And within the guidance, we have, again, one area we often see is if the DAC criteria is not followed, then often evaluators lose their way because they try to structure their evaluations and the structure is lost. The story is lost and the results are lost. And love or hate the DAC criteria, it does give you a framework, a very clear framework, and it gives you guidance on how to present your findings. And within the guidelines themselves, we have very clear outline for the final evaluation, again, which can be shared with evaluators from the outset and really should be shared from the outset, and they can follow that when they produce their final evaluation. I hope that helped.
I'm gonna start asking you to raise your hand so I can see you, but before I do that, I'm gonna pass over to Momin from India so you can answer your questions for everybody to know, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Martha. The presentation was extremely useful, and it's a very important conversation that we are having at this point in time. My question is just in terms of guidance, particularly about when the evaluation is led by a donor. A donor-led evaluation is where we find at times challenges. A donor has its own, evaluation guidelines or evaluation process that they follow. Even if there are times when you kind of, do share the guidelines and do want the donor to follow and to incorporate certain elements, but it does become challenging if they do not necessarily go for the critical criteria of the guidelines. They can perhaps have 1.5 page evaluation and that meets their own guidelines, and say that, okay, fine, we take cognizance of your guidelines, but this is our way of going about it. So I'm just wondering, then obviously this will have a direct impact on the quality assessment of the evaluation report. So what is the best way to move forward to make sure that, right from the design stage till the process is followed, how do we make sure that these guidelines are kind of followed mutually? Thank you.
It's a difficult question. Donors, but I would say to engage with donors early, if not from the outset of the program, on what the evaluation should look like, what the evaluation will look like, and have that discussion early with them and come to an agreement early. Obviously, agreement isn't always forthcoming, but you can outline the approach maybe that they require within the terms of reference, and that will be taken into account when we do the quality assessment. But
additionally to what Richard is saying, you can ask them to speak with us.
Yes.
Because we do share a quite fluid relationship with bilateral evaluation offices as part of our engagement with other networks, including the EvalNet. We do share principles of evaluation together, and I think it would be good to refer to the guidance of UNDP, because those are in alignment. We have the MOPAN exercise, which revises on a regular basis our procedures and so on. So feel free to whenever you need and you see that these evaluations are going off track, to bring them to the compliance with our guidance, which I am certain will not be that far away from theirs.
All right. Okay, I have Syed here as the next question, and after Syed, I'm gonna ask Hanayo maybe that you can come in, because many of you have been asking about the mini roars and about the indicators. So after Syed, maybe Hanayo, you can give us a quick brief for where we are and where we are going, so that everybody knows what's coming. Over to you, Syed.
Hi, good morning, good evening. I'm sorry I won't be able to use my video because the connection would be very choppy otherwise, but I hope you can hear me. My question would be very, very short, and I think Richard is already smiling. My point has always been, and I think I'll just leave it to the panelists or for a reflection. And I think with the great work that UNDP is doing in terms of technology and linking various platforms, I think it would be very good, but I don't know how feasible it would be if ERC, at least the recommendations that are being uploaded there or actions that we are tracking could be somehow linked to our new CPS platform, the corporate planning system, where we have our program tree, where ROAR is connected, So I think because at the moment, ERC, no matter how good and how useful it is for tracking of those actions, but it looks a bit distant from as close we have, or our perception of CPS or other corporate planning systems are. Over.
Thanks, Sabi. It's always good to hear from you. Just so everybody knows, Sabi was actually part of the writing team for the guidelines and came to New York, and we had a good week together writing the guidelines. Funny, great question. The ERC is a fabulous tool, but only M&E focal points, RRs and DRRs can access it. And I don't know if the DRRs in the room actually know that they can access the ERC and see their dashboard. However, just this week, we've been in discussions with Hanayo, And we have a plan, and in fact, we're hoping it will happen very quickly to start to move some of this, well, to move all of the ERC data and link it to the corporate planning system, or at least have it available through Power BI, so all of the organization can access that information. And we're also speaking to others about broadening the access to the information. It's a very powerful tool. And we need to get it out there in front of RRs and DRRs as soon as possible. Thank you, Sabi.
Thanks a lot. So over to you, Hanayo.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a perfect time to jump in. Hello, everyone. My name is Hanayo from Bureau for Policy and Program Support, and our team is also in charge of implementing, making sure that evaluation is implemented and used from the UNDP side. And as just Richard mentioned, our responsibility is to make sure that all the rich data in the ERC is usable and visualized and analyzed. So what we have been working with Richard's team is to make, recently we launched a portfolio analytics dashboard, which visualizes all the resources we invested and the results achieved. We have also introduced a new layer of project level portfolio analytics, including the use of machine learning of our portfolios. What we are planning as a phase 3, which should happen fairly soon in a couple of months, maybe by September or so, is to incorporate evaluation implementation data in our dashboard so that people can monitor exactly what we have seen just now from the presentation, the quality of evaluations, the compliance with the plan, and also all the focal points and the link to the actual evaluation so that people can take actions. So that's doable, and it's a low-hanging fruit that we can offer very quickly. And once this information is available, maybe we can quickly get together again like this forum, and we can go through what we have. I think this is going to be very powerful, and we really want everybody in this platform and also senior management, res reps and DRR to use it, to see what's really happening and can take actions across the office. So that's it's coming, and we're very excited about it. I just want to quickly mention about what's coming in terms of COVID-19 results, monitoring, tracking, and reporting. It's just coming from the oven that the senior management approved the COVID-19 results package, which has 3 parts, and maybe Malta can share with the colleagues. It's public now using UNDP. So what we have, part 1 is 14 sets of corporate COVID-19 indicators that people can track. And those indicators, country offices can set the most relevant indicators. And this is also in line with the UN country team socio-economic response indicators. So it's not double reporting obligations, it's in line. So whatever we do from UNDP can be used for the UNCT reporting as well. So that's one set. But by saying that, indicators are not perfect. Indicators could indicate something, but indicators don't tell everything what we do. So that to complement indicators, we launch Mini-ROAR. Mini-ROAR is a qualitative results tracking system with 11 key questions related to COVID-19 implementation. You will see the template very soon, but we will ask you maybe maximum 2 paragraphs, also very short paragraph of the development context, operational challenges, and then going into the real challenges, the achievements that you made. Also, we have resource mobilization, partnership, innovations, and those key questions. Importantly, we want to also look at the demand coming from the field, not only the past results achievement, but we want to also really start looking at short-term demand from the field, medium-term, longer-term demand. So we are asking in the Mini-ROAR what kind of demand is really happening and what kind of offer that UNDP could make in the short term, medium, longer term. So that information, qualitative information, is becoming very powerful in UNDP, in addition to indicators, because now we have a technology to use machine learning or artificial intelligence. Qualitative information, the results report, is too massive to analyze. We have to read through it, but now the machine can analyze it. So we will be applying machine learning so that we can find out really what's happening in which areas, which context, and what kind of demand is coming. And this information will be available in the COVID-19 monitoring dashboard so that people can start using how much we are investing, what we have been achieving, and what kind of demand is coming. So that is going to close the loop, and which will be available soon, and we will be launching, and we will be conducting similar webinars for the country system regional bureaus. Very last bit, I'm sorry to take some time, but COVID-19 project indicators is really a key for us to do the right tracking. It's very simple system. You just need to go once in the platform and to link, this is a COVID-19, which kind of offers this. But the accuracy of tracking is very important because this is the starting point of associating our investments and the results. So we have been slightly modified the markers in line with the new 2.0 offer, which is not too complicated, but we will be also including these elements in the upcoming webinar. I stop here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce the new elements.
Thanks so much, Hannah. You've been waiting for this, and it's great to know that the oven finally is coming out of the oven. I'm gonna move now to Marian, and then I see a question actually from Guyana to Hannah. So over to you, Marian.
Hello, good morning from Manila. I have two questions. One is regarding the quality of the evaluation. So Richard rightly pointed out earlier that the reason why the evaluations eventually get a poor mark in the QA assessment is because they have a poorly designed TOR. So I was wondering, would it make sense to have a two-step process in that the terms of reference is quality assured before we move on to the implementation of the evaluation? Of course, that would entail additional perhaps monetary or effort in terms of resources, but yeah, just wanted to know your thoughts about that. And the second one is regarding the evaluation guidelines. Is there any plans in the pipeline to maybe expand it to include expanded guidelines on impact evaluation? Just to share that in our country, our donors, especially our government donors, are requesting the incorporation of randomized controlled trials or impact evaluation methodologies in the projects. So that has several implications on the way that we design projects and the way that we allocate resources for the conduct of these studies, because they end up being very costly compared to the standard evaluations that we're used to doing. And the reason why they're raising this is because from government's point of view, they want to be able to show proof of concept that the particular intervention works so well that they can put in more resources to it and potentially have more partnerships with UNDP for that intervention or that initiative in the future. So those are the two ones, but also thank you to Richard for the updates, and to Hanayo, great to hear the progress in terms of COVID reporting. Thank you, and over.
Thanks, Mike. Great to hear your voice. I think it's a great idea to quality assess the terms of reference prior to the evaluation, and it's a weakness of the process. And I think it's something that Oscar and I would consider, and we just need to get the mechanisms of the process in place. Whether that means bringing in the regional M&E people earlier, or whether it means bringing us in, that's a different question, but certainly we support the approach. For the guidelines, we certainly will have expanded project elements So we'll have more detail on what an impact evaluation is and so on and so forth, a project evaluation, midterm review. That's in the next set of revisions. But I'm really interested in what you're doing with the government of the Philippines on RCTs and impact. And maybe we can have a side discussion on this. And I don't want to prompt Oscar, but I think you might be interested in this, Oscar.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, in IEO, we are really drafting our program of work for the next years, and for 2021 we aim to do a revamp of the evaluation manual, in which impact evaluation will feature very prominently, and therefore it's good to know that you already have this type of demands, and therefore our guidance should be able to orient how you can do that with the limited resources that we may have to undertake this type of evaluations. There are various ways of measuring impact, not just RCTs, and therefore we should offer at least, you know, the options that are available, and recognize as good practice for credible and very rigorous type of assessment that can give the assurance to our partners of the impact that we are achieving through our interventions. So yeah, but it will not happen in 2020. We are planning to do that next year.
Thanks a lot. And maybe I'll move quickly to Bayana. It's a quick question, but I think it can have like it trigger something else. And then if you have any, we will have Sujita, and I think then we'll start wrapping up since it's getting we're getting close to the hour and a half. So Bayana, over to you.
Hello everyone. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Good. Okay. I may ask, I'm taking this opportunity, I may ask another question, but thank you, Hanaya, for an interesting information about the COVID indicators. And I was wondering where this package will be published. And I hear it will be soon because we are working on a results framework on a UN joint program proposal on COVID response. So it will be very much useful for us to proceed with the quality framework. Another question to Richard. Thanks, Richard, for also an interesting update that linking ERC to planning, corporate planning platform that may improve quite substantially some of the quality issues, or motivating, engaging program officers in giving more importance to the evaluation and taking an action to implement as per the evaluation recommendations. And I was wondering whether there is a potential possible solution integrating one or two questions in ROR on the reflection on the implementation of the recommendation coming from the evaluations, or usability of the evaluation in real terms in the field. Okay, thank you. That's all from me.
So maybe you, okay. Go ahead.
No, it's an interesting question, and on the raw we'd have to speak with Hanayo, but it would be great to start to capture actual impact and use of these evaluations. So it would be something we'd be interested in. Hi, Biana. Hanayo.
Yes, sure. I think this is an interesting point. We can definitely consider for the next war. And in terms of the indicators, it's available. It has been shared with Regional Bureau colleagues. Malta and colleagues have the package, and I'm happy to share with you. It's available, and we are now working with the IT colleagues to have the corporate system for the indicator reporting and also the mini ROR. And our plan is to launch the first round of quick mini ROR by the end of the month.
Okay, so we got the package today before the webinar. So we will definitely be sharing, and it's good to know that now it's public. I didn't even realize that. So I understand there's the list of indicators, but then there is going to be reporting from country offices against them. So there's a tool. So one is you can use them from your product for your project, but also, I mean, when you're developing your product, but also we will need to use them to report against in our own ongoing projects. I have one more question from Sujita, and unless there is any other burning questions that are coming up, then I think we will go and start wrapping up and closing the session. Over to you, Sujita.
First of all, thank you, Oscar and Richard, for responding on questions on ICP linking to CPT-MT. Thank you very much. We are looking for your guidance and some ongoing discussions that we would like to have in terms of standardizing MTs. My second question is on the coverage of project and program evaluation, because that I see is also one of the biggest challenge in the country office and the region. Now we have improved our system in terms of LPAC of the CPD, that we need to write the justification on whether like the list of evaluation that we put in the evaluation plan is justified and it covers. But I feel that in most of the country offices, the evaluations and the projects are added after CPD is launched. So the new programs are launched in first, second year or third year, and the list goes on. But there is a more tendency to stick to the first evaluation plan that is approved by the executive board. So in that sense, like I was thinking, like if we can institutionalize the review of the CPD evaluation every year, not just by asking the RBM colleagues to revisit and revise the CPD, but also put that institutionalized, involving the RRs and DRRs to look into, for example, in the country office business plan discussion in the beginning of the year, if we can have that as one agenda to see whether the new projects evaluations are added or whether it's only the JEF evaluations or we are covering the different portfolio evaluations. So that kind of discussions never happens, and which like kind of get less prioritized in the country office discussion in terms of strategic decisions, because we know that evaluation is very critical and people do not want to talk about evaluations, and adding the evaluation is the biggest challenge for the RBM colleagues. So just one suggestion, that we need to institutionalize this evaluation discussion and evaluation planning in our country office business plan, and especially there is a role of regional bureau to do the review of statistics like what Richard and IU team have presented today, that what is the proportion of fund, what is the type of projects, and what is the evaluation that we have planned. So that kind of in-depth analysis can be done by the regional bureau and can, like, you know, build that discussion in the strategic discussion areas like business plan or ROAR planning or stuff like that. Yeah. Over to you.
Great, thank you, Sujita. As you know, in the guidelines, we do recommend that at the beginning of every year that you review your evaluation plan for the year, and you also undertake a midterm review of your evaluation plan. And we've had this conversation, and that's guidance, but we need to get it into this business plan discussion. I agree with you, and let's work with regions and see what the process is that we can put this into the, we can get this formalized within the operational processes of the country office in the region. But it's essential, and we want to put this in front of management as much as possible. Thank you.
Matter of fact, and this is really a good way to wrap up, because colleagues, we need to commit to have a stronger results culture in UNDP, and really show what we are doing, and what we are doing is improving people's lives, right? In so many fronts, either in poverty reduction programs, in governance, in environment, in crisis prevention and recovery, and so on. And therefore, evaluation should be taken into that context as a ways to measure if we are going into the right direction or not. And Sujita, what you have just mentioned in terms of leveraging a bit more the discussion at the strategic level with the deputy resident representatives and resident representatives of the use of decentralized evaluations to orient the direction of the program is extremely important. And we really will expand our efforts to reach that level of commitment from senior management at headquarters, at regional level, and at country level in order to improve our culture for results. And the work that you are doing in going through the mechanisms that we have in the house to make that happen is extremely important. And I want to thank you for pushing that forward. We know that we speak the same language when we see that we want to improve the quality of our results and really move evaluation beyond just a compliance exercise to be a useful tool for improving the impact of our programs on the ground. And with that, I really would like to thank our colleagues, Marta, Hanayo, Sujita, Buyana, and of course, Valerie and Bushra, who have been excellent at the beginning of the meeting for this very rich exchange. You have provided us with a number of important feedback and ideas to move forward. And rest assured that we will continue with our interaction, making actions and making decisions of many of the areas that you have touched upon, as well as continue consulting with you on ways of strengthening the role of evaluation in UNDP.
Thank you very much to everybody, and especially all of you that stayed until the end. Just 3 points from also RBAP. As you know, we now really, we're using these various dashboards, and there is one that is the key performance indicators, and within those, we really 10+10. Within the 10+10, one is on evaluations, and within the evaluations, there are two. One is quality, and the other one is planning. So we will be able to really track much closer where we are. Do remember, we have still 114 evaluations to deliver by the end of the year. So you are highly encouraged to relook at that and try to see how we can club some of them, or how do we make smart decisions so that we really achieve the results that we want to achieve. I think there were also good, excellent ideas that came through the whole webinar, especially Oscar Devia on the CPDs and evaluation offices being part of the BPACs. Also evaluations and ROARs, etc., etc. And one logistics, we will be sharing not only the recording of the webinar today, but also the presentation. And remember, there's a training available. It's very, very useful, and the various materials that we have shared. So over to you, Richard, for the final words.
The training, Marta, is not useful, it is mandatory. It is very useful, but it is also mandatory. Yeah?
But it's, yeah.
Yes, no, it was excellent. As always, your Asia Pacific is always a great place to work, and you are committed people, and especially to evaluation. We have an excellent community of practice in evaluation in the region. You know, we have big projects on evaluation in the Philippines, excellent impact evaluations in Bangladesh. We have a lot of good work going on here, and it's always a pleasure to engage with you. But there's still a lot of work to do, and we're here to help and here to support. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Good evening to all. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.